everyone, and welcome back. I'm Emma from Spotlight Mining in collaboration with the Mining Network at the Mining Investment Event of the North. So I'm joined today by Dan Wilton from First Mining Gold Corp. So firstly, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Emma.
Pleasure. So let's start by just getting a brief overview of the company, the ticker, project, stage, that type of thing.
Okay, First Mining, ticker symbol FF on the TSX, FFMGF on the OTC in the US. Market cap about 175 million. We have a bunch of portfolio projects that we've been moving forward, some with partners and some by ourselves. The most advanced and largest of those projects is Springpole, which is a 5 million ounce gold project about 100 kilometers east of Red Lake, Ontario.
Okay.
That we're moving that project through environmental assessment. We have a pre-feasibility study done, moving it through feasibility and advancing down the environmental assessment.
Perfect. And just to get a bit of context about yourself, what's your background and how did you get into this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I ask myself that all the time. How did I get into this? So I started my career in corporate finance, mostly mergers and acquisitions and capital raising for mining companies, and kind of started working with mining companies almost by accident, right? I was a Canadian kid in New York and said I needed to staff someone on a mining project, and they looked around and kind of pointed at me. And so I said, sure. And then that kind of launched what fortunately was my career in mining. So spent 20 years as a corporate finance professional, 5 years as a partner in a mining-focused private equity fund where we invested in mining projects around the world, mostly at kind of development stage. And then I've been the CEO here at First Mining Gold for 3.5 years.
Brilliant, quite the timeline.
There you go.
So for those not familiar with Springpole that you mentioned, could you just give us a brief overview of the project and kind of what you're doing at the moment? Sure.
So Springpole is one of the largest undeveloped open pit projects in Canada. It's about a 5 million ounce equivalent resource. Again, located 100 kilometers from Red Lake, Ontario, so northwestern Ontario, good proximity to infrastructure, and in between two great historic mining camps at Red Lake and Pickle Lake. So the project itself is one of very few projects in the world that's capable of producing more than 300,000 ounces a year. It's a big open pit, 1 gram gold and about 5 grams silver. With a low strip ratio, kind of around 2-to-1 on a strip ratio, which is becoming more and more important as we start talking about the greenhouse gas footprint of mining projects.
Yeah.
Strip ratio equals GHG, by and large, if you're using diesel trucks to do your mining. And it's a project, again, we're in the middle of the environmental assessment process. We actually published our draft EA documents a couple of weeks ago. So those are now in the hands of regulators who are going through those as a draft and expect to receive comments kind of by the end of the year.
Brilliant. And just going back to the EIA, how far along the permitting process are you with that?
Yeah, so we entered into the environmental assessment process in 2018. We got approval on a terms of reference for our provincial process in November of last year. And we've spent about 10 years collecting baseline environmental data. So we have a really robust, long-dated data set. So we're pretty confident as we go through it. That's really going to help in providing definition and scope around the project. So we've just published our EIS document, our EA document as a draft. That then kind of goes through technical review on regulatory agencies. And once we receive those comments back, we incorporate those. And importantly, we need to still do quite a bit of work with our Indigenous communities around the project in order to make sure that they have their input and contribution. We're just kind of working out how that process is going to work right now. But I think when we have the comments and feedback from the communities, we have the comments and feedback from the regulators, you turn around, compile that into a final environmental assessment document, and that gets submitted as a final EA. And from that process, it's about 12 months.
Got you. No, yeah. Thank you. And are you planning on growing the resource? Is there potential to do so either along strike or at depth? Or?
Yeah, the actual Springpole deposit itself, it's reasonably contained in the open pit that we're talking about. But on the property, there's an enormous exploration potential. So we've more or less doubled the size of our mineral tenure. in this Birch-Uchi greenstone belt, which is becoming one of the more kind of talked about exploration areas in northwestern Ontario and Canada for that matter. We've had a couple of big companies come in and stake big positions. We're not that far from where Kinross has acquired Great Bear, that's about 100 kilometers away. Barrick has optioned a big property just on the southern boundary of our property. So, we like it when people move into our neighborhood, but we really have, in the northern part of this Birch-Uchi belt, we really have the dominant landholding here now. So we're just doing, very systematic exploration now, starting to work up exploration targets. We've got about 20 different targets that we're looking at. Have permits to drill in 5 different areas, so we'd like to get out and get a few holes into some of these things.
Yeah.
For the first time, a big district scale modern geophysical program, which we're going to fly later this year. So really kind of working up those multi-layered, robust data sets to be able to target exploration opportunities. And yeah, we're very certain that the 5 million ounces we have is the starting point, not the end point of this.
Definitely, no, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And all being well, when do you think the decision will be made?
We're kind of targeting, get through the environmental assessment process, and that's probably, if we were to submit a final EA a year from now, that's, you're kind of talking middle of 2024. And then there's some other permitting that has to happen, but by and large, you drive toward that construction decision from that point. So call it 2 and a bit years. And yeah, you got a lot of things we got to sort out in the meantime here, particularly, relationships and agreements with the Indigenous communities in the area. And we're really aspiring to work in a real collaborative partnership with the communities around us. But yeah, still a few things we got to figure out before we're breaking ground, but that's the mining business.
Of course.
Yeah.
And just going back to the PFS, what are the post-tax numbers? Could you remind us?
Yeah, very robust after-tax NPV of just shy of $1 billion US at a $1,600 gold price. 2.2 year pre-tax payback, 2.4 year after-tax payback. All-in sustaining costs in the core part of the mine life, sub $600 an ounce. So very, very robust numbers. And ultimately, one of the things that's really important about this project with its size and scale is the leverage that we have to an increasing gold price. So on our PFS numbers, every $100 increase in the gold price is $150 million of after-tax NPV US, or as we like to point out, it's basically our market cap for every $100 in the gold price in terms of increased leverage that we have. So great leverage, and that's just talking about Springpole. We have a bunch of other projects in Canada, some of which we're moving forward ourselves. Our Cameron project down around Rainy River, very exciting exploration opportunity, but starting with a 1 million ounce resource there. We've got some projects in Quebec that we're starting to think about plans for as well. So, we've got leverage with all of these other projects, not to mention the ones that we found partners for. Our partners, I think they spent probably $40 million on our projects over the course of the last year. So yeah, great leverage from that perspective as well.
Definitely, no, it sounds it. And then just a nice way to summarize is just to talk a bit about the past 12 months and then the future 12 months. So let's start with the past ones. What are you most proud of as a company in terms of the key milestones that you've achieved?
Oh, that's a good question. I think what I'm the most proud of is the team that we've been able to build. Because you go back 18 months and we brought on Steve Lyons, our VP Environment and Community Relations, and Steve brought most of his team with him that had spent the prior 6.5 years permitting the Hard Rock project, which is now in construction in Ontario. We brought on James Maxwell as a VP Exploration, who's done amazing things in terms of really building a team and starting to understand the exploration opportunity we have. And we just added a new Chief Operating Officer, Jeff Reinson, who has a long background and history in working with big projects and complicated projects, but a real specialist around understanding water and tailings, which are the things that we're most importantly going to have to deal with at Springpole. So the other real milestone, I think, for us to get the 10,000-page draft environmental assessment actually across the finish line and submitted, I think that's published. I think that's, it's a culmination of 10 plus years of work. And I think when you see that all come together in one document, it really does it gives a different sense of reality to the process that we're going through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So in your opinion, what should investors be looking out for over the next 12 months and beyond besides that?
It's going to be, we talk about it as a catalyst-rich environment for us for sure. So, in the next year, we'll have an updated feasibility study for the project. We're working on that right now, but that's probably about a year away. We're going to have the feedback that we get from the regulators on the draft EA, and people should be able to get a sense of, are there any real showstoppers from a permitting perspective or any real impacts on timelines? Do we have to collect more data? I think we're going to have real clarity in that over the course of the next year as well. Actually, over the course of the next 6 months, hopefully. And then I think on the exploration front at Springpole, starting to work up targets, talk about, this real district scale exploration that we've kind of put together. And then there's everything else happening with our partners, Oteco Minerals, who's drilling and building out at Pickle Crow, where they've doubled the size of that resource over the last year. Treasury Metals is coming toward a pre-feasibility study at the end of the summer, which I think is really for the first time going to define in a really clear view the project at Goliath, which we're super excited about. And our partner Big Ridge Gold continues to have great exploration results at the Hope Brook project in Newfoundland. So, it's a nice thing about having partners working on your projects is there's no shortage of news. We're going to get a bunch of different things coming and, have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, no, it sounds like there's some exciting things in the pipeline.
Yeah, at a time when everyone kind of says, oh, you're permitting a project, like this is when it's boring and, you never have anything to talk about. I think between feasibility, the permitting stuff at Springpole, exploration, how we're moving forward with the communities around us and hopefully trying to move those toward agreements and collaboration. I think there's lots to look out for in the next year.
Definitely. It's the first steps, isn't it?
It's not the first steps.
Well,
it's like the 96th steps. But it's a long process. But it's one of the things that, gives me some real comfort. And I think it's an amazing time to be investing in projects right now. Everything's been so beaten up. But there just aren't that many real world-class, real-scale projects. And that's why we always keep coming back to Springpole. This is a 5 million ounce project that can produce 300,000 ounces a year, and it's in a tier 1 jurisdiction with an attractive cost profile and close to infrastructure. Like, you don't need to know much more than that to know that this is a really strategically important project for the gold industry. And that's going to get recognized at some point. We just need to keep driving forward and keep de-risking it in the way that we can.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been very interesting.
Oh, thank you.